Hi guys, I found out the other day that Elvis's parents, Gladys and Vernon, saved up to buy him a car when he turned 18 years old, and that Vernon would teach Elvis how to drive as a small boy. Elvis absolutely loved the fact that his father now and then would let him jump behind the wheel and drive that car. You could hardly see his head over the steering wheel. And he was always fascinated and in awe of these beautiful cars and dreamed that one day he would have his own. Little did he know the riches and wealth that he would one day have, and that he would be able to literally give away cars to friends and family and strangers. So I've pieced together all the different pictures I can find of Elvis with cars and some footage, and I've also found a very old vintage documentary about Elvis Presley and his cars. And there's some clips here that I found on YouTube just talking about the car that Elvis learnt to drive in when he was much younger, and more information about the car that he was given by his parents. It was very run down. The brakes didn't really work properly. The starter motor kept going faulty, so he oftenly with friends needed a push start. But he could also get the freedom where he could start dating. Let's all listen to this vintage documentary together. Thanks, guys.
But even dazzling caddy colors were too dull for the king. Elvis wanted his own paint job, a flamboyant signature statement for a guy who wasn't afraid of the garish.
And it's very well known that Elvis would buy these cars and fully customize them, get them repainted to fit his own style.
How about a great colored Cadillac? In high school, Elvis drove a beat-up old Lincoln. After graduation, Presley worked as a truck driver, which gave him the chance to scout out cars. A Cadillac always topped his list.
And they say that Elvis bought over 400 Cadillacs. Can you imagine that?
He would see these nice cars passing, and that would kind of get him daydreaming. And he would start to think, man, if I ever make it, I want to buy one of those.
And the humble Elvis from Mississippi Tupelo literally had no idea that one day he would become so famous and so wealthy.
And he did. In 1955, after his first big record contract, he bought a pink one for his mother, who didn't drive.
And I think most Elvis fans have seen the footage of them driving around the front of Graceland in the snow and making snowballs and just looking really happy and excited.
By 1956, the budding king of rock and roll wanted his own. Hound Dog, Don't Be Cruel, Love Me Tender. 1956 was a banner year for Elvis Presley.
This was when it was all just getting ready to break loose. Heartbreak Hotel had been released, was doing very well. It was going to become his first gold single. And so he was really getting to that point where he was going to become an international star.
In 1956, while in Houston for a concert, Elvis spotted the car he wanted, the new Biarritz model of the Cadillac Eldorado, and a convertible to boot. If you could afford it. A Cadillac convertible cost more than $7,000, 3 times the price of a convertible Chevy. A budding rock star could spend that in a heartbeat. But the Houston car salesman didn't recognize Elvis. When Presley asked to test drive the car, the salesman gave him the once-over. Seeing a kid with casual clothes and long sideburns, he told Elvis that no one test drove the Caddies. When Presley plunked down $7,500 cash and demanded that the commission go to the guy outside washing Cadillacs, he got the salesman's undivided attention. And he got the car, loaded with the Continental kit, which included air conditioning, power windows, power brakes, power steering, and a top-flight radio with automatic antenna. A critical need so the king could hear all his hits. Presley, wind blowing through his pompadour, drove the gleaming machine nearly 700 miles from Houston back home to Memphis, gunning the 360 cubic inch V8 engine. At night, he could use the caddy's Autronic Eye, a space-age gadget that sat on the dash, detected oncoming cars, and automatically dimmed the headlights. The crooner in his Cadillac became an item. He drove it everywhere, including, legend has it, in games of chicken with fellow rocker and Cadillac lover Jerry Lee Lewis. Elvis and his caddy seemed the perfect couple, except for the color. White just didn't have enough pizzazz for Elvis the Pelvis. A paint job was clearly in order. In July 1957, the King took his stylish carriage down to Jimmy Sanders, who ran a custom auto shop in Memphis. To demonstrate just what shade he wanted the car, legend has it that Elvis grabbed a bunch of grapes, smashed them on the hood, and said, "That's the color I want."
You know, I think the reason that he wanted purple is just because it was a little different. I wanted something that kind of stood out a little bit and made a statement.
The great caddy now stuck out in a crowd. But Elvis had roving eyes. He was always buying new Cadillacs, not only for himself, but also for friends and family.
Elvis Presley was a sophisticated Cadillac buyer. He was known to buy upwards of 400 Cadillacs in his lifetime. He was also a person that, if he liked you, would give you a car.
And we've all heard the stories of Elvis giving everyone cars, the Memphis Mafia, friends and family, and complete strangers. It's just the way he was. He probably was the most generous man that ever lived.
But he didn't have the '56 purple Cadillac long. By December 1957, the fickle crooner traded her for a newer model.
I don't know if Elvis ever had a favorite car. You know, he would drive one for a while, and then he would see something else and say, man, now that's a cool car.
But this caddy wasn't going to rot on a used car lot. Lena Moskowitz, a friend of Presley's mother and a big Elvis fan, knew Elvis was trading it in, and she wanted it. Elvis arranged for her to get it from the dealer just as soon as he traded it. She paid $4,893, and Presley even signed the back of the title, "This car formerly owned by Elvis Presley." Lena brought it back to Graceland to visit with Elvis's mother. The car was often mobbed at the gate by fans that just wanted to touch it. Over time, the caddy was taken out less and less. As the owner aged, the old beauty was moved to an open field and left to rot. Like Elvis himself, the once proud vehicle languished. Its great purple coating slowly began to oxidize. Vandals took their turns as well. By 1976, the car was a mess, its interior virtually destroyed by the elements. It was auctioned off to a used car dealer named James Cantrell for $975. Cantrell knew this was the King's old carriage, and he had a plan. He would restore the car and then present it to Presley as a surprise.
And I've never heard this story before. It's quite a sweet story. Let's keep listening.
He gave the car a celebrity makeover to the tune of $28,000. The body was primed, painted, and buffed. The interior reupholstered, busted taillights and mirrors replaced. By August 1977, the car was nearing completion. Unfortunately, Elvis Presley would not live to see it. He died from a drug overdose on August 9th. He was 42.
Oh, I don't like that bit. He says that Elvis died from a drug overdose. I think that's a bit harsh. He obviously had complications with over-medicating, but he did have serious health problems and a very weak heart. So the actual cause of death was heart attack, but we all know that it's very complicated. Let's keep listening.
Elvis has never yet been replaced as the king of rock and roll, with his records selling briskly even today. He has become a pop icon, remembered in velvet wall hangings, occasional reports of live sightings, and in pilgrimages to Graceland. If imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, Presley must be considered among the most revered pop figures of the century. His impact on American culture is undeniable.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Just a good overview on Elvis Presley's love for cars, on the vehicle that he learned to drive in, and on the vehicle that Vernon and Gladys bought for him on his 18th birthday. Have a great day, guys. All the best.